Okay, for this mock exercise, we're going to take a look at decision making, and the question that we're going to look at is called Vernum Corporation, and this is all about make versus buy analysis. So let's look at the question. So the question goes something like this. So you got a company that produces and sells to wholesaler a successful line of summer lotions and insect repellent. Vernon has decided to diversify to stabilize sales throughout the year. A natural area of the company to diversify is making winter lotions and cream to prevent dry and chapped skin. After considerable research, a winter product line has been developed. However, because of the conservative nature of company's management, Vernum's president has decided to introduce only one of the new products for the upcoming winter. If the products are successful, further production in future years will be initiated. The product selected is a lip balm. So that's going to be what they decided to introduce this year. The product will be sold to wholesaler at a boxes of 24 tubes. That's the sales price. So let me write that down. Because of the available capacity, no additional fixed charge will be incurred to produce the product. However, a $200,000 fixed charge will be allocated for their share of the company's fixed cost for the new product. The remaining overhead will be variable cost. Using the estimated sales and production of 100,000 boxes of lip balm as a standard volume, the accounting department has developed the following cost for 24 tubes. So this is based on 100,000 boxes. So this is the cost, okay, per box of 24 tubes. They got direct labor, direct material, and total overhead. Now, Vernum approached a cosmetic manufacturing company to discuss the possibility of purchasing the tubes for the new product. So this is the actual container. The purchase price of the empty tubes is $1.80 per 24 tubes. This is the buy. Okay. Vernum accepts the purchase proposal. It estimated that the direct labor and variable overhead costs would reduce by 10%. So this is the variable overhead reduced by 10%. Okay, and then it says, and variable and direct materials would be reduced by 20%. Okay, first question, should the company make or buy the tubes? Show the calculation. That's the first question. So let's look at part A. Should the company buy or make the tubes? So the cost to buy is how much? Well, we know, we're told it was $1.80 times, how many tubes do we need? We need 100,000 boxes, right? And there are 24 tubes in each box. That's $180,000. Now, what is the cost to make? And we're only looking for avoidable cost. Avoidable means if we don't make, this is how much of these costs will disappear. Avoidable, okay? So direct labor, what does it say? Direct labor is $4. So direct labor is $4. Sorry, direct materials is $4. Now we're told that it says direct materials will be reduced by, I'm looking at direct material, direct labor, sorry. The direct labor is $4 per unit. And we're told the direct labor and variable overhead would go down by 10%. So $4 times 100,000 times 10%. That's how much of the labor cost will disappear. Avoidable. If we're going to save 40,000. Direct material is $6 times 100,000 units. Now, we're told direct material will go down by 20%. So this is how much savings we're going to save on material if we buy those tubes. Now, variable overhead. So we know that total overhead was $3 per unit. And we're told that 200,000, remember it says it's $3, so that's 300,000, but we're told that 200,000 is fixed cost. So less fixed overhead cost of 200,000, that's given, is 100,000 must represent variable. And of course, divide this by 100,000 units to give us $1 per unit for variable overhead. Okay? Now, we're going to look at how much of the variable overhead are going to disappear if I get rid of, if I buy, right? It's going to be $1 times 100,000 times 10%, because we're told that that's going to reduce by buying, right? That's 10,000. So the sum of this is 170. So which one is lower? This one, right? This is lower. In comparison to this one's lower. So the answer is, which one should we should actually make? So conclusion, company should make the tubes because of much cheaper, right? Because there's a cost savings of 10,000. Okay, so that's the first part of the question. That's part A. Let's label that part A. Part B says, what would be the maximum price acceptable to Vernum for the tubes? Explain. So what would be, how much are we willing to pay for the tube? Well, the maximum price, let's do it here. So maximum price, company is willing to pay for the tubes would be the cost, right, divided by 100,000 tubes, $1.70. So that this 170 is really this number here. So that's how much they're willing to pay. That's how much they're willing to pay for those tubes. Now, part C says, instead of sales of 100,000 boxes, revised estimate shows that the sales volume is actually 125 boxes. At this new volume, this incremental cost would only be the additional fixed cost required, even if sales increased to 300,000 boxes. The 300,000 level is the goal for the third year production. Under these circumstances, should Vernum make or buy the tubes? So now they've changed it. Now we got up to 125. And the only difference here for 125 is the additional rental of 20,000. Okay, so let's do that together. So this is part C. So again, we need to compare the cost to purchase versus any avoidable cost So to buy, it costs $1.80. And to make, what is it going to cost us to make? Well, we know that we saw that to make in part A, we saw that it was going to be 170,000 for 100 units, right? So we're going to take 100, so the variable manufacturing cost will be 170,000 divided by 100,000 units times 125 units. That's 212,500 plus fixed cost for that equipment rental. So now we're faced with which is better, right? Which is better? Cost to purchase is better, isn't it? We're comparing these two. This is now better. So in this case, we would recommend that the company would actually buy in Part C. Now, let's look at Part D. Part D says the company has the option of making and buying at the same time. What is your answer to Part C if this alternative is considered? In other words, now we know that in Part A it's better for us to make, right? So we know that in Part A, at 100,000 units, it was better to make. And we know that in Part C, the 125, it was better to buy. So we're going to say that the extra 25,000 units we're probably going to buy. So cost to make is 100,000 tubes times $1.70, because that's $1.70, right, per unit. That gives us 170,000, and cost to purchase that would give us 215. Now, versus cost to purchase, which is 225 from Part C. So remember that 225? We said this was better, but now we're going to compare the two. Which one's better? This one. So it is better to look at a combination of buy versus make. Now, it says what qualitative factors in Part E is what qualitative factors would the managers consider in determining whether they should make or buy the lipstick tube. Well, we know the factor is quality, on-time delivery, okay, and how do we know that the pricing is not going to change? So future pricing. So given the fact that what we're dealing with is not a large amount of difference, then perhaps management may decide that it may be better to make than it is to buy. But if the difference in quantitative is significant, then obviously the decision would be one of quantitative rather than qualitative. Thank you.